everyone and welcome to a special video about the cards of Legends of Runeterra. When I first opened this game, I didn't start building decks and playing against players. I did what nobody else did. I went into the collection and I looked at the lore of the cards. And believe me when I say that there is a lot of lore. So in the upcoming days, probably every day we will release one video on every region. So today we are starting with Freljord, because Freljord has some pretty life-changing things that we will talk about. Okay, maybe it will not change your lives, it will certainly change my life. But anyway, let's get on it. Every card in Legends of Runeterra does have its own description. So if I click on Braum right here, you can see that there are some connected cards to him. They will reappear later, so we will have a look at them later. But also, you can click on the eye and you will get the description and the entire art. And the pictures here, the art is absolutely beautiful. So we will stop every now and then and I will show you some references. So, let's start with the descriptions. Papa, tell me one about Braum and his door. Or when his fall split the mountain in two. Oh, what about when he saved the tavern from the rampaging Yeti? Of course, on the art you can see that he's punching a Yeti. Next we have Ashe, and these descriptions of the heroes are gonna be very generic. There is no new lore yet, but as we go further, you'll see there is a lot of new lore. You are not our enemy. Our true foe is the long, lawless winter. We are all people of the Freljord, and this land belongs to all of us. Of course, this is just the normal way the Avarosans live. I like the detail that you can see a little rainbow above the Avarosan town. Of course, I should be also showing you the art when they level up. The description is exactly the same, but there is still some storytelling. For example, here, notice the people on the left and on the right. These people will come back. And I should also mention that there is a lot of storytelling in the cards themselves. You'll notice that if you put multiple cards together, you will actually get a small story. And there is a massive story hidden among these cards in Freljord. I will point that out, so, you know, you don't really have to be looking for Easter eggs now. But you'll see that there is something incredibly cool. I'll quickly go back to Braum, because Braum also got a special art when he levels up. You can, just have a look at the Poro with his eye patch. That's the only special one here. And now we'll be going forward. Anivia. I was born from this hard land, and it is mine to safeguard. Time, war, even death itself will not stop my vigil. Now notice how Anivia says that the land is her to safeguard, because if we go back, I am not exactly sure if she can, you know, protect Freljord. Anyway, we also got the upgraded art. This is when she levels up. Again, the description is the same, but notice that she's actually fighting back an army. And if you look at the army, you can see that they have little horns on their helms. These horns are typical for the Frostguard, which are the loyalists of Lysandra. So you can see that even Anivia sees the armies of Lysandra as evil, which is something pretty cool. Next we have Tryndamere. Do not die for your cause. Live for it. Now the art here is super interesting because again, you can see horns on helms. Those are not Avarosans and those are certainly not the Winter's Claw. So again, we are talking about Frostguard. And we also know that this is Frostguard because not only is the armor very iconic, but also if you look at the background, you can see that they are enslaving Yetis. And Lysandra does have a certain past with enslaving Yetis. Again, this is just awesome world building. Of course, then there is also the upgraded art, where you can see Tryndamere with a lot of arrows in his body, including one in his heart by the way. But he is still alive. Now, canonically in the lore, we are not exactly sure what the rage is about. We know that Aatrox probably has nothing to do with Tryndamere anymore, even though the in-game quote still suggests that it might be possible. But as of right now, in the canon lore, this godly power that Tryndamere has is kept a mystery to us. And I assume that this is going to be something that will be revealed at some point. But just notice that Tryndamere is going absolutely apes, and he is either fighting back the Yetis or he is freeing them. It is kinda hard to tell at this point. Next we have Brittle Steel. Of course, this is an awesome image that shows you what happens to the southern weapons. If you take a weapon that is crafted in something like Noxus and you take it up to Freljord, of course it is not going to withstand the tough winter. Then we got our first item lore. Yes, in Legends of Runeterra a lot of items do get its lore. And here we got Elixir of Iron, which of course is on Summoner's Rift. And we finally know that it is from Freljord. In fact, look at the description. Rough out there, eh? Not to worry, the owl serves up a special brew so strong it will pull the chill out of your bones and grow hair on the chest of a newborn. The quote of a kindly tavern keeper. Notice that it says, the owl serves up a special brew. This will come back later because as I said, the cards do have their own stories. Speaking of storytelling, keep this image in your mind. It is called the Lonely Poro. A lifetime in the Freljord and still nothing more chilling than a sight of this sad fellow. The quote of a Poro herder. Remember this image? It will come back later. Then we have Omen Hawk. 3 times our reavers reached Avarosan gates, and 3 times they were met with ready bows. What trickery warns them of our attacks? The quote of Scar Thane Stefan. Now, Scar Thane Stefan is a new character to us. You can't find that person in the lore. However, he will reappear later in the cards. And when it comes to the Omen Hawk, 2 possibilities here. Either the Omen Hawks are just magical conjurations. You know, just like how Ashe can just spawn a hawk out of nowhere. The other possibility is that these are real hawks, they are not just magic. But because in Freljord you have a lot of shamans and shapeshifters, you got also people with similar powers to the wargs, when you can warp into the eyes of a beast. It is possibility that some of these shamans can actually use the eyes of the hawks. And I do believe that the shaman from Ashe's comic did do this, but I'm not entirely certain on that. Either way, it is cool that the Hawk of Ashe is explained here. Next we have Unscarred Reavers. Unscarred here means that they were not in battle, and this is something like a tradition in the Wintersclaw tribe. If something was not in battle yet, they are called the Unscarred. And you can see that the description even mentions Vrina, Scar Mother. This is another character that was not in the lore yet, but we do have a card later, so we will get to her as well. Next we have Yeti Yearling. This is pretty much just a small Yeti. However, this small Yeti, when in trouble, can summon Enraged Yeti. Now the quote says that Yetis might not exist, and that's because Yetis are now somewhat of mystical beings. Most of the Yetis stay away from humans, because they know their cruelty. But some of the Yetis that were allied to humans were frozen with the Frozen Watchers. So now Yetis are almost non-existent. Also, all of these pictures will show the Yetis enraged or feral. But keep in mind that Yetis are actually really smart. They are smarter than humans. That's why every now and then, the wisdom of a Yeti can be mentioned. Also, these cards have their own storytelling. Notice how the quote is from an Avarosan trapper. This will come back later. Next we have Avarosan Sentry. There is nothing really special here, it's an Avarosan troop that is looking over an Avarosan city. But there is also the spell Entreat, which is pretty much just the horn of the Avarosan Sentry. Then there is Feral Mystic. And this is where things start to get interesting. You see, Freljord is full of shamans and shapeshifters. Now, not the Vastayan shapeshifters, that's a category of its own. But in Freljord you have people that can shape into animals. Usually these are bears, wolves and in some cases stags. The Feral Mystic here is one of 2 things. Either this is one of those shamans who can shape into animals, and looking at the bear above him you can see that he's probably trying to shape into a bear. Or this can be a follower of the Volibear, because the religion worshipping the Volibear is like an extreme version of shapeshifting. The Volibear is this prime force in Freljord and nobody really knows what it even is. Some people can see the Volibear as these horrifying visions, but the new roadmap revealed that the Volibear may actually also be just a normal demigod. So right now we are not sure what the Volibear actually is, but it is still possible that this shaman may be a follower of the Volibear. Or it is just a normal shaman. Next we have Icevale Archer. The description doesn't reveal anything new, it's just an archer of the Avarosan. Then there is Shatter, also just a normal card with a quote from Scar Thane Stefan. Also a person that will return later. Then there is Talking Wolf, and this card is awesome because it actually gives us a Freljordian saying. You cannot make a wolf from hair, which is awesome world building, but also this card will summon the hair itself. And when we have a look at the description of the hair, it has a different saying. Wolf or hare, winter makes prey of all of us. Again, awesome world building. Then we have the Starlit Seer. The description is nothing special, it is just giving boons to Avarosans. However, you may remember this guy because he appeared in the Art of Ashe. You can see him here in the upgraded version on the right. Then we have the Wording Stones. Now, I didn't know what wording meant, so I had to Google it. And apparently, it is a really old word from the Northern mythos. So if you don't know what this means, it's pretty much a word connected to fate. So in this case here, these stones might be either giving visions, or in other words, they may be revealing fate, or these serve as gravestones, because they might be preserving fate. Either way, again, you can notice horns on these stones, which may be connected to Lysandra, and something else that will appear later. Next there is an Avarosan Marksman. Now this guy appeared on the left side of Ashe's art. The quote is basic, in Freljord you can hunt or you can starve, which is pretty much the only way you can live there. Also, I have no idea if this is actually real, but can someone tell me, is this how you shoot a bow? I don't know a lot about archery styles, but I noticed that a lot of Avarosans do hold the bow like this. where the string is actually going over the hand. If anyone knows, I would love to know if this is actually an archery style. Because usually you wanna hold the bow so that the string is actually under the hand, so you can pull the string towards your chest. Then there is Avarosan Trapper. And this is where we get our first storytelling from the cards. The description says, caught nothing all week. Either those beasts are onto me, or something scared them off. And of course, this card also summons the enraged Yeti. So the Trapper is trying to catch animals, but these animals are scared away by the Yeti. Also, the Avarosan Trapper had its quote towards this little Yeti. Next we have Flesh Freeze. Nothing special here, but this is a direct reference to Lysandra's quote.
Flesh freezes so easily.
Then we have Iceborn Legacy. We few are Iceborn, our bloodlines infused with Freljord's magic. Our ancestors locked away an ancient evil, and now we few stand guard to defend against its return. Quote from Greyor the Guardian. Of course we know Greyor because Greyor is the ghost from the Howling Abyss. The guy with the horn that serves as shopkeeper is Greyor the Guardian, and he is standing watch there to sound the horn should the watchers return. Then we have Kindly Tavern Keeper, and this is a part of a massive story told by the cards. From the description you can notice that the tavern is called Tipsy Owl. And of course we saw Tipsy Owl in the one and only Iron Elixir, or Elixir of Iron. It says that it is served by the owl, by which they of course mean the tavern. Now what is cool that the tavern is called the Tipsy Owl because the tavern keeper has its own owl. A pretty cool detail. But don't worry, this tavern will become crucial later on. For now, let's move on to Mighty Poro, the first Poro to be ever unique. Also, with the Poros being now in the cards, it does seem like Poros are finally canon in the lore. Either way, this Poro is unique because he lost his eye when protecting the Poro King. Then we have Rime Fang Wolf. Again, nothing special here, it just says that the animals are waiting for people to get crippled by the winter. And then we get Scarthane Stefan, the person who was mentioned in a couple of cards before. The description here tells his story. I sealed my oath with the Winter's Claw when Sejuani gave me my first scar. Every scar since has been earned in her service. And of course, if you look at his body, he has a lot of scars. So it is obvious that Scarthane Stefan is in the service of Sejuani, and he is part of the Winter's Claw. Then we have Take Hard, a card that just reveals Braum's superhuman strength. We still don't know why he's so strong. It is probably because he's also an Iceborn, but other than that, we don't know much. Then we have Tall Tales. This is just a scribbling, probably of a child. But either way, the child mentions Uncle Björk. Remember that name. Also, the child is called Ingvar the Younger, but that won't come back later, so you don't need to remember that. Just remember Björk. Then there is art for the Avalanche. It's just an avalanche. Then we have Avarosan Outriders. The description says that they became allied to Ashe because Ashe brings peace. Now what is cool to me is that the Avarosan Outriders are riding different animals. It is not just Elnuks, which are the local Freljordian goats. You can also see some horses, which are really rare in Freljord. So you can see that they are actually quite fluffy horses. But then of course we get Babbling Björk. And this is a crucial character. Remember him? He is hard to not remember. The description says, you gotta believe me, it was huge, I tell you. Huge! Remember him. Then we have Bloodsworn Pledge. Now the Bloodsworn Pledge does have different variations, depending on which nation you stand with. For example, Sejuani and Ashe did make a similar pledge. It was the pledge of the Battle Sisters. The Bloodsworn Pledge is very similar. I will be a torch in your heart, a shield at your side. Let me find strength to protect us and our kin. And may our lives flow together as the blood that seals its oath. This is the quote to Tryndamere, who probably made the pledge to Ashe. Also, look at those runic weapons. Those look incredibly cool. Then we have Bull Elnuk. As I mentioned, the Elnuk are local Freljordian goats. But the description mentions a special Elnuk. There is a tale of old Uncle Elnuk, which is just a stubborn Elnuk that likes to eat. Then we have Catalyst of Aeons, the second item with its own lore. Neither ruby nor sapphire surpasses the luster of the Aeon Stone, a brilliant gem with legendary restorative properties. Again, now we know that this item is actually a gem from the Freljord, with the power to regenerate bodies. But then we have Poro Herder. The description says, a herd needs just two things, love and company. Anything else is just fluffed. Now fluffed of course is what you call multiple Poros. Poros don't have herds, they don't have flocks. If you have multiple Poros going in one direction, it is called a Poro fluffed. However, remember when I told you to remember one of the previous arts with that one lonely Poro sitting on the rock? Do you see that one Poro sitting on the rock now? Well, once the winter came and everyone left, this Poro was left behind. Then we have Poro snacks. The description says that, you know, Poros are adorable, and so how could you not give them treats? That's pretty much it. Then we have Avarosan Hearthguard, which is pretty much just an Avarosan warrior. It's still pretty cool to see what the Avarosan army actually looks like though. And then we have Heart of the Fluffed. The story says that long ago there was a Poro that offered Avarosa help. Now, Avarosa didn't know how a single Poro could help her, but the help became obvious as the Poros became stronger with pure numbers. I just love the little guy with the goggles. Also, in the previous art, notice the archers, those are pretty cool, but also you can see our little Poro without the eye. Next we have Rime Tusk Shaman. There's not much to say about this, again, shamans are common in Freljord, but this one looks like the shaman from Ashe's comic. Then we have Scar Maiden Reaver. They are riding boars and they are burning villages. Of course, they are with the Winter's Claw. Then we have Tarkas the Tribeless. And oh my god, does this card make me want more trolls in the game. I feel like trolls are heavily underappreciated. And Tarkas the Tribeless is only the third ever named troll. We know Trundle, we know Grubgreg the Hideous from the story of Braum, and Tarkas the Tribeless is the first troll, unless you count Jax. Now, the suspicious thing is that he seems to have 4 fingers. I'll have to have a look at Trundle again, but I do think that trolls are supposed to have only 3 fingers. Anyway, I love this art and I want more trolls in the game. Then we have Elnuk Troops. It's just goats. Then we have Alpha Wildclaw. Notice that the Wildclaws don't have 4 legs, they have 6. And the description says that they have the power of a warhorse and the thoughtless savagery of a cat. The next card is Windburst. It's just what Anivia does. And then we finally get Scar Mother Vrina. Again, this is a brand new character, and actually even the description doesn't tell us anything. This is not Sejuani's mother, this is not Ashe's mother, this is a brand new character. Which is pretty cool because this gives Riot the freedom to have new characters become something bigger. I just really like this art. It really makes you understand what the Winter's Claw is about. They just raid villages and burn them down. Now there's a one card that I will skip for now, we will come back to that later. But first we need to have a look at Ancient Yeti. Now the person at the bottom here, do you remember that guy? Do you remember him? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, is Björk. The description says, what was that? Sounded like a sneeze. Do glaciers sneeze? Of course the Yeti is frozen here because some of the Yetis that were allied with the humans were frozen near the abyss with all the Watchers and the rest of the armies when the battle for Freljord began. So this Yeti is ancient because he is really ancient. The next card is Icy Yeti. And oh, would you look at that? Old Björk is here. Well, after this you may think that when he was talking about something huge, he was talking about the Yetis. But that's not true, and we'll get to that later. Next we have Pack Mentality. It's pretty much how the animals live here. They live together or they die alone. Then we have Winter's Breath. This is another awesome world building. The description mentions that some people may consider the winter itself a war mother, just like Ashe, Lysandra or Sejuani. And the wind and the biting frost are the war mother's bloodsworn. Then there is a card for Tryndamere's Battle Fury, which just says I've been told that I have a temper. Then there is War Mother's Call. There will come a day when an unmistakable call will resound throughout the Freljord. On that day all will rise to answer it, for it announces that ancient enemies have emerged once again. Of course, the ancient enemies are the Frozen Watchers. And since we are talking about the Frozen Watchers, behold they who endure. This is something for theory crafting. Old Björk has been through a bit, lost his crew up north, returned pale and gibbering months later. Now it's just giant beast this and huge claws that. Poor man. Quote from the Tavern Keeper. Now, we are not entirely sure what these things are. Some people think that these are the Frozen Watchers, which I don't believe is the case. I don't think that would be even possible. The Watchers are supposed to be frozen in the Holding Abyss, and this does not seem to be like the Abyss. This seems to be taking place in the far north, possibly across the canyon where any civilization even is. But one thing is suspicious. These things have the design of the old Watchers. Back before there was any lore at all, Riot had this idea of the Frozen Watchers, and they even gave them design. Now, it was never confirmed if this is what the Watchers actually look like. In fact, that is highly improbable, because the Watchers are not even supposed to have physical forms. They should have a form beyond what we can even imagine. Also, the eye in the Abyss doesn't really fit with these creatures. So I think it is almost certain that these creatures can't be the Frozen Watchers. I do believe that these are ancient Voidborn. And I have a reason to think this, because the next card is She Who Wanders. Now this card turns everything upside down. First of all, she wanders, therefore this creature is actually loose. It is actually walking around. And if it's walking around, I doubt it can be a watcher. Because if a watcher went loose, Lysandra would know. Now it is also possible that these things are not connected to the void at all. And that makes them even more peculiar. Now I really want to show you this concept art from the studio that made these cards. This is what this creature actually looks like. And oh my god, those hands that go down the legs, that looks like a creature from Dark Souls. It is absolutely insanely mesmerizing. But either way, the description is interesting as well. I dug myself out of the rubble to find a scar seared into the land around me. Smoldering ash lay where my companions had stood, and in the distance a looming form moved on. Quote from Björk the Wanderer. Now the scar in the land might be because it is a Voidborn. Now remember, the Voidborn are disintegrating the land around them, to gather its information and bring it back to the Watchers. So maybe this is actually a super powerful troop of the Void, and it can fire freaking laser beam from the hole in its head, to gather data just like Vel'Koz. Either way, this is a massive mystery and I love it. This really is something that will become a massive thing for all theory crafters. Again, I don't think that this is a watcher, but I do think that it might be connected. The reason why it can have hands going down its leg is because as the Voidborn disintegrated humans, of course they gathered their data. And so when they were creating other Voidborn, they might have been using the useful parts of humans. You know, their hands. Who knows, maybe this is actually connected to the Seal Sister. And maybe we have new kinds of demigods on our hands. Remember, Freljord is not the most northern part of Runeterra. There is the true north as well. And maybe that's where these creatures are from. Maybe Anivia froze them to protect the land, not Lysandra like she did the Watchers. Anyway, let's finish this video with the story of Björk the Wanderer. The story goes that this little ship is Björk's ship. He and his companions were traveling to the far north, just like he usually travels to find Yetis. He was traveling north to discover more adventures. But there they found these creatures. And worst of all, one of those creatures was moving, and it simply evaporated all Björk's companions. Björk was now the only man alive, with absolute madness before his eyes. So of course he ran back to the tavern to tell everyone what he saw. Mumbling and babbling madness, because he simply saw madness. And of course, it was huge! But you can see that the lady is unimpressed. But what we also know from the hand on her shoulder is that this is the exact same woman as this one. And the hand on her shoulder is the babbling Björk. Thus we came to a full circle with Björk the Wanderer. I really hope you enjoyed this video because I want to make more of these. There are tons of cards in Legends of Runeterra, and there are a lot of descriptions. I should mention that none of this is confirmed to be directly canon. And I say this because Riot is just covering their butts just in case there is a mistake and they need to correct it. But we should probably take this as really awesome world building. And unless something is going to be directly disproven by the universe of League of Legends, we should take Legends of Runeterra as part of that universe. With that said, if you guys want, tell me in the description which nation I should have a look at next. The beta of Legends of Runeterra will be up for only 3 more days, so I need to do this quickly. So, because this video is already too long, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you next time. Hey, did you know that we have social media and Twitch where we talk about other League facts and stories? And did you know that we have neat mugs and shirts too? The links to all of that will be below. And as always, thank you, come again.